Hello and welcome to another day of One Comic Book a Day, where we have made Bat Fridays Bat Wednesday this week because my computer has to go in tomorrow. And this is just easier for me and it's less work for me. And I just like talking about these Batman issues. So today we talk about the second story in Batman #1, Batman and the Monster Men. Or is it just the Monster Men? I think it's Batman and the Monster Men. The second Hugo Strange story, which would tie Hugo Strange with most villain appearances with the Mad Monk, which was really more one two-part story than like two separate stories, and Dr. Death, who has had two separate stories as well. I always kind of debate this with the first Catwoman story, which is next, and she's not really the Catwoman in that story, as the weaker stories in this comic, but the Monster Men gets a really good retelling years later in like the 2000s that's really good and you should read. This version has its moments. I wish it was less murdery, and we'll get to that. So Hugo Strange escapes from prison. I mean, he just opens with escaping from prison. He has guns and is just running out of prison. I assume someone delivered them to him, but there's going to be no explanation. Remember, Hugo Strange is like a mad genius, mad scientist right now, not the crazy psychiatrist he eventually becomes. So Hugo breaks out, and then like within the next panel, he breaks into Metropolis's insane asylum. Remember, it's not Gotham yet. We're still kind of in New York. They haven't really mentioned that in a while. And this New York doesn't have Arkham Asylum yet. So the closest insane asylum was in Metropolis. Just weird. Arkham is like one of the two things you know Batman for. Or, well, like Gotham for. Not one of the two things you know Batman for. It's like one of the most famous things about Gotham. And because there's no Gotham, and we haven't created Arkham yet, it's not there. Also, where was Superman during this breakout of the insane asylum patients? I hope he really wasn't dealing with a mobster at this time. Though knowing Metropolis like I do from doing the, Superman comics a day, the head of the insane asylum is probably some crooked guy who's making these patients work in forced labor. That's how Metropolis works. See my other videos for that. And then a few days later, Hugo Strange's, well, I think he does rob a bank at one point, but essentially these monster men, as they're called, they're sort of brutes, go on a rampage through New York. They're 15-foot tall men who seem to be bulletproof and super strong. They remind me of the Brute Man. I keep thinking of them as brutes because there was a movie called The Brute Man, which was a 40s or 50s B horror movie that Mystery Science Theater 3000 did one time, and this is sort of how the Brute Man looked. They're sort of like tall cavemen, and they're unstoppable. And if you watched my video earlier this week about fixing, Superman mobster stories, one thing that Bill Finger and Gardner Fox seem to get pretty early on is building up the threat. So Batman doesn't really become involved till almost halfway through this comic. And we just keep watching the Brute Men escalate. So first they're just rampaging through a city, robbing banks, getting money, throwing a car, pushing around the cops. And then in the next time they appear, they're tearing down the L train tracks. So that's going to be a massive problem. And we never get like an explanation of what happened there. We just see them about to destroy the L train tracks. And no one ever mentions if like something happened to the L train. After this, Batman finally becomes involved. He's heard enough. He's spent like 2 nights listening to this on the radio. Dick Grayson either doesn't exist in this story or he's too busy doing homework. Not sure. Robin does not show up at all. So Batman takes his Bat Gyro, which is looking very baddish at this moment, and follows the Brute Men back to their hideout, where he's immediately captured by Hugo Strange, who injects him with the serum that's going to turn him into a Brute Man in 18 hours. Well, that's a long transformation. So they lock him up and go about doing their criminal things. Batman immediately escapes because no one takes anything away from him. So, of course, Batman has something in his utility belt. Well, not really his utility belt yet. But he does have like he just calls it like a chemical compound and throws it out the wall and explodes. As soon as he's out, he confronts Hugo Strange, who kind of left himself unguarded. Well, there are some Brute Men there, but they don't come in right away. And Batman just immediately punches him out of a window because he really doesn't care about lives right now. And then we get one of those weird moments where he's like, is this the end of Hugo Strange? By the way, by the end of the issue, he's like, Hugo Strange is still alive, without any evidence of that other than he didn't really see him die. But he's not sure if he's dead to sure he's alive in like a 5-page timeline. Then the brute men come in. Batman, with a really long pole, is able to stumble them around. It turns out they're not actually bulletproof. Their clothes are bulletproof. So why didn't the cops go for a headshot at any moment? Well, they had hats at sometimes. I guess those could have been bulletproof, but like you could have just shot them under the hat. But a long pole can hurt them. And he eventually is able to like knock them into each other, and they start just beating each other up. He then goes into Strange's lab to create his own serum, and within 1 minute he injects himself with a cure. That's a fast-moving cure. Monster men that were left have killed each other, so he goes after the other ones. There's 2 more left. The first one he finds, you expect him to, use the cure he made. Maybe it doesn't work after you've transformed. But instead, he just straight up kills this dude. He takes like his rope and hangs him from the bat gyro, which is far more horrific than anything I think Batman has done. I'd rather him have the gun back right now, because wow, that's dark. And he even says he's better off dead. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there was something that could be done to him. He didn't seem to try. And then he goes after the last Monster Man, which becomes a weird King Kong reference as he climbs to the top of the building and Batman has to shoot him with his plane. Yeah, his plane has guns with him, but the bullets don't work because of the bulletproof clothes. So Batman's not aiming for the head again. That's shooting a dude in the head too far. Hanging him from the bat plane, acceptable. Really need to have a talk with the editorship right now. That's crazy to me. With gas pellets, he eventually just knocks out the last Monster Man, who falls to his death, which is also a pretty dark way. Yeah, Batman just does not care about other people's lives at this point, especially these Monster Men. It's okay because they're Monster Men, not actual men anymore. I think if you could turn them back, and even though they're insane, they might have like an argument against that Batman. And this is the happy ending of like Hugo Strange possibly being alive. Really, that's not a very good ending. So that is it from this issue of Batman, which has a lot of like good tension, but is mired by Batman's murdering cravings. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays generally are the Batman. And join us next time. Not the same Bat Day, but the same comic book channel. Have a good day.